Hello subscribers and unsubscribers. This is a quick video because, well, people seem to be upset that Sekai Project wants to go and have the HD assets for Clannad be turned from 1280 by 960, which is a 4:3 resolution, which is not generally what is used in this day and age. Okay, to a 1280 by 720, which is a 16:9 resolution, which is, or aspect ratio, which is an aspect ratio that is generally used in this day and age. Okay, this is actually should be the resolution that YouTube videos are played at in a 720. When played at 720p, is that they should be playing at a 1280 by 720. Okay, this is an abnormal resolution, even for a 4:3, from what I can tell. So that's not a good thing necessarily. Now all they say here is process it. There are a couple of things process could mean. Process could mean cropping, or not even cropping the image, but rather resizing it, going, this is too tall, and dragging down in like Photoshop basically, for example. Probably something that's actually better, but the general point is the same. To have a total of 720 pixels vertically. Okay. Or it could even mean that they're going to try to get Visual Art / Key to go and actually redraw the assets in a 1280 by 720, which I kind of doubt that one, but I think that would generally be the best way to handle this, is just to have Key and Visual Arts redraw the assets. Because one thing I want to go and note real quick is that this is 1280 by 960. I'll pull up the canvas size for you guys to see. 1280 by 960. This is, like I said, a 4:3 resolution, and there's the resolution listed again. This is just an image that I use sometimes, or it's actually the background image that I use for my channel page and Google Plus background. But here it is, and this is, as you guys can see down here in the bottom left hand corner, 100% zoom. As you can see, it is cut off at the top and at the bottom. This is 1280 by 720. Again, 100%. It is a 16:9 resolution, and as you can see, it's not cut off. Now, I play at all my games at a 1920 by 1080, which is a 16:9 resolution. On my screen, if the game is played in 4:3 without changing my screen resolution, I will either A, end up with black bars, or B, I will end up with a 4:3 stretched, which will cause the image to look like absolute garbage. Now, one thing that should be noted, when I go and play Clannad, it plays in an 800 by 600 resolution, which is another 4:3. But Clannad, when I play it, or when I launch it, does one thing. It actually changes my screen resolution to 800 by 600, which is the reason why it actually records at 800 by 600. As opposed to actually recording at 1920 by 1080, and thus I don't end up with black bars or anything. Now, when I go into Sony Vegas, however, I do tell Sony Vegas to not maintain aspect ratio because I hate black bars, personally. Which is one of the reasons why I would prefer them to go and do this 1280 by 720 asset resolution. Now, would it be best if they had both? Of course, but here's the thing. Some people are going to be playing the game windowed. Now, one thing should be noted. Even if they're playing the game windowed, a lot of them are probably going to be playing at a 16:9 resolution. Thus, it's not really going to be any different. You're going to run into the same, or at least a similar situation as you would with a 1280 by 960 asset on a 1920 by 1080 screen, in my case. If I were to play the game windowed, I would still run into a somewhat similar situation to what's happening right here, if they use the 1280 by 960 assets. But if they use the 1280 by 720 assets, I don't have any issues at all. Most people will not have any issues. And I do believe that 16 by 9 still to a degree looks pretty decent on 4 by 3, but I don't actually have the means of confirming that because I don't play games at 4 by 3, nor do I have my screen resolution set to 4 by 3. I have not used 4 by 3 and I want to say I haven't really used it in forever. I do believe the monitor that I have next to me that I don't even use might actually be 4 by 3, but I don't care and I'm not going to go and check that out. But nonetheless, generally speaking, people don't play in 4 by 3 resolutions in this day and age. They might do 4 by 3 stretched. That's apparently what some people do in Counter-Strike, just so that their targets are bigger, but whatever, I don't give a crap. Most people generally are not going to be playing in 4 by 3 for the most part. And if they are, it's 4 by 3 stretch, which doesn't actually look all that good. Which 4 by 3 stretch just means that you are playing at a 16 by 9 resolution, but everything is 4 by 3 and it is stretched as needed to go and fit into a 16 by 9 resolution, which, like I said, does not look good. Someone decided to go and put up a comparison image, which is not a good comparison image because these are the original assets. Okay, this is the 800 by 600 right here. This is the 16 by 9 that was used in the PS3 version. Apparently it's the 12, which actually doesn't make any sense. It can't be 1280 by 720 because of the fact that from earlier comments that I had read before that person, you had to pan up on the PS3 version to see the entirety of the assets most of the time, which means that they would have to be 1280 by 960. And it also makes no sense for it to be, for those assets to have been 1280 by 720 because then the original HD assets would have been 1280 by 720 as opposed to 1280 by 960. So that's a bit confusing. So yeah, no, that's not actually the way this works, from what I can tell, realistically speaking. But yeah, and then of course one person's here pointing out that NVIDIA control panel can be set up to scale, or do aspect ratio scaling, but it doesn't actually do all that great for 1280 by 1024 or 1280 by 960 because those are weird resolutions for whatever reason. The driver just isn't really all that great at scaling those, whatever the reason is exactly, I can't say. But yeah, I don't understand why people want 1280 by 960. You're probably going to be playing the game in a 16 by 9 resolution, so why would you want a 4 by 3 asset? Even if they added in a pan option, why would you want to have to pan to see the entirety of an asset? That makes no sense, in my opinion. Being required to pan just so that you can see the entirety of an asset seems really stupid, in my opinion. But yeah, so I just don't understand why it is that people want those 4 by 3 assets. But whatever they do, best thing Sekai Project can do in this case is to allow an option when you first launch the game to it'll ask if you want to play the game with 4 by 3 or 16 by 9. Whatever. I don't need you to do that, Windows. But yeah, so that's the best thing Sekai Project could do, is allow you the option to play with 4 by 3 or 16 by 9. Or they could even do what Clannad does for me right now anyway, which is just resize my screen automatically upon launching it. In fact, I can show you guys that right now. But I'm going to actually stop the recording first. Just because I don't know exactly how it'll handle suddenly losing resolution or sudden change of aspect ratio. So 1 second. Okay, so guys, this is what Clannad does for me. And you guys will see once I actually pull up my taskbar. See how small it is in comparison to normal and how fat it looks? That is because Clannad changes my aspect ratio automatically to 800 by 600 because that's the original size of the game. So it automatically changes my screen resolution. Now, of course, when I exit, it goes back to my original resolution, which is great. This could be something that Second Project could have it set up to do, is automatically change your resolution to 1920 by 960 or 1920 by 720. They could set it up to where, depending on which option you pick, whether it be 4 by 9 or 16 by 9 assets, it automatically changes your resolution to that. And I don't think there's actually a windowed option on here, so I don't know why people are saying they'll be playing. Oh, no, okay, there is. I've never used it personally, though, because I don't play my games windowed. I play them full screen. Sometimes borderless window, but generally speaking, it's still the same as playing it in full screen, but that's just the way I do. And I'm not going to actually tell Sony Vegas this time around to go and actually stop maintaining aspect ratio for this, so you guys can see that you end up with black bars on the sides. Should be the sides, might be the top, but I believe it's the sides. But yeah, so that's just the way it is. I don't know why people want 4x3 assets. They assume that you're losing something substantial, and in fact, one second, there's one thing else I want to go and show you guys. So one second. Okay, there we go, welcome back. Now, one thing should be noted. People are saying that they're going to crop the assets. Now, here's the thing. There's a difference between cropping and resizing. This is the crop tool. Okay, this is what cropping does. I just lost a portion of the image. Why? Simple. I cropped it. Now, this is more than likely what would actually be done in this case, is that they would just resize it. They would pull it down in this case. Photoshop's acting a tad bit slow here. There we go. Now, that I'll admit doesn't particularly look good, but that is because it is still constrained to the 4x3. But if I actually were to go here and tell it to change the image size as a whole, it actually doesn't look that bad. Doing it this way, telling it to actually change the image size like this. So if they were to actually go essentially open up Sony Vegas, or not Sony Vegas, excuse me, Photoshop, for example, put in a 1280 by 960 resolution, throw in the asset that they want, and then do something like image size change to 720, I don't think it would necessarily look that bad. But I still think that generally speaking, the best thing that could happen here would actually be for Key and Visual Arts to redraw the assets. Because as a whole, that would be the best way of handling this. If the assets are just straight up redrawn, you don't lose anything in that case, for the most part at least. So, yeah. But like I said, like I've been saying, I don't understand why people want this for their assets when they're probably going to be playing a game in something more akin to this. They might play it windowed, but they're probably going to be playing it still like this in a 16 by 9 resolution. So I don't quite understand why it is people want that. But they do, for some reason. I'm not going to question it anymore. But I am still confused as to why they want that. So, for those of you guys who watch this, if you could, in the comments section, let me know, which would you prefer in the first place? Would you prefer 1280 by 960, which is a 4x3 aspect ratio for the assets, or would you prefer 1280 by 720, which is a 16 by 9 aspect ratio for the assets? Again, the best way to handle this would be for Key and Visual Arts to redraw the assets in 1280 by 720, and then have Sekai Project provide the option when you first launch the game on a system to choose between 4:3 and 16:9. That would, as a whole, be the best way to handle this, if you ask me. But yeah, that's gonna be it. So whatever. I'm just gonna leave this as is. I personally don't really care too much what Sekai Project does. I would prefer the 16:9 assets because I'll be playing the game more than likely in a 16:9 resolution. So it makes no sense for me to want to go and use 4:3 assets. But whatever. For whatever reason, people think that the 960 is actually going to be higher resolution when they're playing a 16:9 aspect ratio, which is not actually really going to be the case. It should realistically look worse when playing if the assets are 4:3 and you're playing in a 16:9 aspect ratio. The assets should actually look worse due to them either A, being stretched to go and fit on your 16:9 aspect ratio, which is not what they want, but that was more than likely what will happen to avoid having the image cut off. But whatever, that's just the way the people are. They say things, some of them probably don't even understand why. They assume that 960 is actually a higher resolution. And sure, you got more vertical pixels, but it's really not better at the end of the day if you're going to be playing the game in 16:9. But whatever, that's the way people are. Like I said, they don't make sense half the time. You always need to question them because half the time people say things with absolutely no idea as to what the hell they are saying. But whatever. But that's going to be it for this video. As always, like, favorite, comment, subscribe, share, and I will see you guys next time. Goodbye.